Hey, everyone. Welcome back to the show. I've got my new friend, Jeanette Lowry, with us today. Welcome to the show, Jeanette.
Thank you, Megan. It's great to be here. We've had a nice little pre-conversation.
Yeah, we did. I always think the easiest pre-conversation is tell me where you're from, tell me where you live, and
Yeah.
then it's always like a very different climate from where, we have very different climates, and then that
Mhm.
leads into all sorts of conversations. So it's a nice little way to get to know each other at first. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Jeanette
Absolutely.
is on the west coast of the United States, and I am on the east coast, but on the west coast of Florida. So we're living in two different worlds right now.
But we have something in common, Nashville,
That's
Tennessee.
right. That's right. I was telling
Small
Jeanette,
world.
um, my family is moving to Nashville, the Nashville area, in the summer of 2025, and she said, "Oh, my husband is from Franklin, so I love that area. We're actually going to move. I think like." Maybe not exactly in Franklin, but close to that area. I always
Mhm.
tell people because people are all asking me, "Where are you going to move? Where are you going to move?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Look, I was a former high school teacher in my 20s, so
Oh.
I picked the school first. And so the school then dictates where we live, and we do private school. So,
Mhm.
there's a very lengthy, long application process,
Mhm.
which we're in the middle of. So that's actually close to the Brentwood area, which you probably know the Brentwood
And we've
area.
got relatives there. Yep.
Yep. So it's close to there. So then you start looking at how far do I want to drive in the morning and in
Right.
the afternoons, pick my child up. And so do I want land? Do I not? Do I want a silly?
Right.
Do I want a cow in my front yard? So, you go through that whole conversation.
We think very similar. Very
Yeah.
similar. That's
Yeah.
how I did it. Pick the private school first, then figure out how far you want to commute every day, you know, taking them to and
Yeah.
from with carpool. Absolutely.
Yeah. Are you close to a gym? She rides horses. How
Mhm.
far do you want to be away from the horse barn? It's all the things, right? Those
It's
are
all the
important.
things. Yep. Although my kids are adults now, I've got a 36 and a 29-year-old. I have two granddaughters, though, that are 6 months and 3.5 years old. So
Oh, wow.
I get to relive the childhood
Oh, yeah.
beauty and just happy.
That's so fun. Are they close to you and like geographically in proximity to where you are?
Yes, like I told you, I'm a sun goddess. I would be in the sun 24/7 if I could, but we're in a rainy state because my family lives in Oregon, which is a couple hour drive, and my daughter lives 10 minutes from me. So
Mm.
they
Yeah,
they
you're getting
picked
all the
their
sunshine.
house based on our location so that it could be
Okay.
convenient. Yeah. So,
Yeah. That's awesome. That's
yep,
awesome.
it is.
All right, Jeanette. Well, let's dive in because you have got such a beautiful, extensive, just rich and fruitful background. So, why don't we start it off with, tell us a little bit about you, what you do, and I love hearing the stories about why someone does what they are doing, and I'm so curious to hear about your evolution of the different businesses that you've been a part of. And I think,
So true.
one of the directions what's kind of calling to me right now, I'm in my mid 40s, and a lot of women at my age, we are starting to have this conversation about like there's so many things that I want to do. There's so many businesses that I want to start. There's so much impact that I want to have. Do I do it all now? Do I wait? If I wait. So there's this like swirl, I think, when you kind of hit this like
Yeah.
midlife place. And it's like, I'm an entrepreneur, I've done these things, but I want to do so much more. Like, how do I do all of that? And my purpose is changing. I'm navigating different seasons of my life. And I just feel like you're going to be able to shed a lot of light on that for us today. So,
Well, I hope so because I've lived 2 decades longer than you. I'm 63, so I am a nana. I will not be called grandma. I'm a nana to my
yeah.
granddaughters. But the bottom line is you're right. In seasons, we can, digest what we've done in the past, and then we can focus forward on what we want to do. And you know what? You bring with you wisdom, a lot of wisdom. So my background, I grew up in the gym. I was a gymnast from age 9. When my grade school PE teacher picked three of us out of the, groups of PE classes and said, "Do you want to stay after and tumble?" And we're like, "Yeah." So from a family of 6 kids, all of us 1 or 2 years apart, with a frantic household, always in chaos, I was happy to stay after school. So tumbling led to my entrance into the National Academy of Artistic Gymnastics, which was an Olympic training gym in Eugene, Oregon. And I stayed there for the next, oh my gosh, 7 years, competing elite. I wanted to get a scholarship to college, however, so I opted in to compete for high school, which then led me to a full ride scholarship to Oregon, which is where I wanted to go, University of Oregon, my alum. So that's really my background has always been health, fitness, action, activity, and seeing my dad launch his own insurance business when he was, gosh, 30, and how it changed our lifestyle from the standpoint of financial, but also time. He had so much more time freedom as his business developed because of recurring income. So that clean eating, health and fitness were in the back of my mind always. I knew I could never sit down and work for somebody else. So I started teaching fitness classes. I married my college sweetheart. He played football. So I lived in Michigan for 7 years while he played for the Lions and did all kinds of charity event. Like you said, you want to just do stuff, you want to see where you fit and what you're good at. So I used those 7 years to explore a lot of things. I became an accidental entrepreneur in 1990 when we moved back to Oregon. I had a 2-year-old son at the time, and my husband's career was done. So he was doing his thing. And my girlfriend just said, hey, try these products. I know that you're still getting breakouts at the tender age of 32. And I think you'd love these products. Bottom line, it turned into a 7.5-year venture where I was able to walk away from that business full time to raise 2 of my kids post divorce because of recurring income. So, I just tell women that I work with now who are anywhere from, 30s to 70s, you got to dig deep and find that passion, that burning desire in your gut, your soul, your heart, and then pursue it with vigor, because there's some ways out there to make it work. We've got social media, we've got technology. There's nothing holding you back from creating the dreams that you want. And mine was always time freedom and financial independence. And so I was able to marry those with my skill set and my background.
So when you've made decisions about, the type of business you're going to build or the way in which you're going to operate your business, are you someone, it sounds like you're this way, where you think of what's my life vision first, and then I'm going to build a business and operate my business in a way that really supports the kind of life that I want to live? Is that the way that you've always done it, or was there a time in your earlier years, like when you were a newer entrepreneur?
Mhm.
Lots of times when we're newer entrepreneurs, we want to hustle, we're grinding, you're getting there through just sheer will and
Masculine
marketing and
energy.
yeah, all that. And then you wake up one day and you're like, wait a minute, this is not the way, because I'm not actually living the life that I set out to live when I started my business. So has your approach always been life first, build the business that honors the life? Or have you had seasons where you got into like hustle and grind and how to find your way back?
Well, I did get into hustle and grind, with just selling things online direct, one thing at a time, just me. But like I said, I became an accidental entrepreneur in 1990. And that was but for the girlfriend who called me. And I hadn't talked to her in, oh my gosh, probably 15 years. I fell in love with the products, and those products were not manufactured by me. They were manufactured by another company. So I aligned myself with this brand and then worked off of their tails. So they already had the infrastructure in place. All I did was align myself, attached, and then created training programs, et cetera, to build a international network of consumers and business builders. So I love brand partnership. I would never go at it solo ever. I know the downfalls of solo entrepreneurship. And I think today people are looking for tribes, they want a community. It's so important. You're moving to gain community. And it's that's really one of the stirring things I find in women. They're just unsettled because they have not found that tribe yet. And wouldn't it be wonderful to be able to grow old with a tribe of supported entrepreneurs who are up to the same thing that you are? I mean, that
Yeah.
to me is like huge blessing. So it was an accident, but I think it was a God wink. I'm totally believe that, God puts people in our paths for reasons in the right timing window. And if we're awake to it, then we're awake to the possibility. So
Now, has that been like one of your almost like a calling card in a way to build your organization, this idea around community? Because you're exactly right.
mhm.
Yeah, so many of us, and I don't think it's just because of, things that have happened in the recent past. I think that we are
Mhm.
just a society that we have access to so many things inside of our home. I call it like boxed living. It's like we're all like
Absolutely.
literally living in a box, fenced in yards. You never have to leave your house. You can Instacart everything, which I don't do. We leave our house a lot. But
Yeah.
is that kind of one of your calling cards in a way to attract people and attract your tribe and attract these
Mhm.
people who you can build up as leaders? Is it largely centered around this idea of community?
Definitely. I mean, that is such, people will come into my business because they get results with the product. If they're looking to up level their health or flush fat, detox their body, different things that I can, you know, teach them to do. But they stay for the community. They always stay for the community. Whether or not they build a business long term, 95, 96% is my stats, stay on the product for life. I mean, they've just been on them every month because they make a difference. So
Yeah.
it's staying for the community and allowing people to take a peek into different areas of that community. There might be an area of the community that these women are all 50 and older, and they're going through their own, postmenopausal stuff. You might be under 40 and you're just going through menopausal stuff. So within the big tribe, there's definitely little brackets that you can plug into, which is awesome.
Hmm. Yeah, the community piece is so important. I'm glad that you just mentioned what you shared around people are coming for the result and they're coming for the product, but what they're
Mhm.
staying for is a community. Now,
Yes.
I don't think
Product or
it matters
service.
what,
Mhm.
yes, I don't think it matters what business any of us are in.
Mhm.
I, in the past, have done, and I still do this now, a lot of third party interviews with
Mhm.
other companies' clients. And what you just
Okay.
shared, Jeanette, is what I hear across the board. I joined because I wanted XYZ result from
Mhm.
whatever was being sold. I
Right.
am still a client, year 2, 3, 5, 10, however long.
Uh-huh.
I'm here and I'm staying here because of the community. I hear it from men, I hear it from
Mhm.
women, I hear it from 20-year-olds to 70-year-olds. I hear it any industry you can imagine. And I'll share one example. I was working on a project for, it was a coaching company, and the guy used to be a dentist,
Okay.
and he was now serving all of his clients were dentists or orthodontists or in that
Oh
particular
boy.
practice. And he
Hmm.
was teaching them how to invest their money in other things other than the
Smart.
stock market so that they could
Hmm.
exit. And naturally, you're going to attract a lot of men. There
Hmm.
are more men who are going to be saying yes to that type of program
Hmm.
versus women. And
Yeah, absolutely.
even the men were saying, I never once thought I needed community. I didn't come here for community, but it is
Wow.
exactly why I'm staying. And I think that this is such an important conversation
Hmm.
that we've got to understand when it comes to retention and building something that's a legacy, that's sustainable, that has
Yes,
longevity to it and has legs to it. We've got to go beyond just the initial conversion. And it really truly is about building that community piece. I'd be interested to hear, like, you've got to be
absolutely.
good at building community if you've done it this long and people stay this long with you. So tell us your tricks. What are your moves?
I think keeping it spontaneous and interesting, where, see, I'm a learner. That's just my um, calling card. I'm a lifetime learner. I've probably been to every personal growth class, weekend, event, online, series that you could even list, seriously. And I love being a lifetime learner. So what I do is bring that into my community, something new, something that they've never heard before, something that they can take away and implement, boom, immediately in life. So keeping it spontaneous, fun. You know what? There has to be a measure of fun and laughter because people are just too serious. I mean, life is short. I mean, when you wake up and you get a phone call that your best friend was just killed in a car accident, you go, "Oh my God, I thought that we would be 90 together." It's short and it's precious. So make the most of every moment. That's just kind of how I fly.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that spontaneity
Hmm.
and keeping it fun. Because
Yeah.
people are, you're exactly right. I think all of us in our little silos in our lives, we are operating at a very serious level, or we're worrying, or we're doubting, or we're very concerned about the unknown, or we're uncertain about the unknown. So I think there's such an element of seriousness in our everyday lives that people are really craving, whether they're saying this out loud or not. They may not
Hmm.
be saying it out loud because I think a
Absolutely
lot of
not.
people don't realize that's what they're missing.
Hmm.
But that's so important. People do want, and I want to make this point as well because of what you said, Jeanette. People do want fun, and that is a result, right? It's not just
Yes.
about the result of the product or the service, it's
Right.
also the result of this element of fun and bringing the
Yeah.
spontaneity and the variety back into somebody's life. That's life changing
Yes.
for people.
It's life changing. And, like you said, when we get so stuck in our day to day, we're wired or pre-wired. Our paradigms are such that we're living, not even thinking, we're not even conscious of what we're saying, we're doing, how we're being, because it's based on that wiring we got from age 0 to 7 in the home we grew up in. Excuse me, in the home we grew up in. So we've taken on our parents' beliefs and paradigms and traditions and rituals, and we're operating as if there's no way to change that. But when you get to the point that the stress cortisol, the stress hormone, takes over your everyday life, which it has for so many Americans, we see that in the obesity rate and we see that in the sickness rate. Stress is killing us. And until you get the other hormones, the good hormones that are working in the body, like, endorphins and the happy hormones, then you go, wow, I there's a different way to be. And that's a lot of times what they get in this community. They can actually change their wiring and start feeling some of that goodness that we've got in our bodies. It's just we've got to tap into it.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so kind of in the same spirit of community, I imagine that you have welcomed, people into your organization and you've poured into them
Mhm,
and they haven't taken the action that's
mhm,
required for them
mhm,
to grow and get results. And,
mhm.
I've worked with business owners in different industries and largely like the coaching and online education space for a long time. And that is one of the most frustrating points, I think, for a
Ah,
lot of business owners because we want to help, we
interesting.
want to guide, we want to lead, like
Mhm.
we crave people getting results and not, I mean, look, everybody who comes into our world, they're not all going to operate in the same way. And I
Right.
know you've seen probably a smaller percentage are actually coming in and doing what they have to do to get the result, and then a larger percentage of
Mhm.
people are not. But you're still doing it. That's a thing. That takes a lot of people out of the game, and they
Yeah.
get very tired and burned out of that and feeling
Mhm.
like I've got to do more and bend over backwards and let my boundaries be crossed and like pull people through the mud. I've seen people literally shut their businesses down for that reason. I'm curious what keeps you going even though you're always going to have people who are not going to take the action. Are you still, do you pour into them less? Like just kind of walk us through your process and your mentality around that.
Oh my gosh, such a great question, Megan. Such a great question. Because it is the 80-20 rule. 80% are going to be followers and they're going to just, do the bare necessities to get by. 20% are going to go above and beyond. But of that 20%, 5% are going to be the, it factor. They've got the it factor, they've got the drive, they've got the background, they've got whatever's driving them. They're not stopping until they hit success. What keeps me going is wisdom. I've learned you cannot drag anybody across the finish line that has not in their mind already decided that that's where they want to go. So it's a lot of that, neuro linguistics and neural programming. Studying that helped immensely because the reason I start my trainings now, it took 2 years to develop my new training program. Once I came out of retirement, kids were gone, nest was empty, and a girlfriend kept calling me, Jeanette, you've got to look at this company. You've got to look at this company. Keep in mind, I was still receiving recurring income from my first company, but I hadn't built anything. I was just using the products as a consumer, but still getting paid. I was hungry to come back out of retirement after 20 years of doing arts and crafts and nonprofits to really put a footprint for women in the sand because we now have technology in our backs. I started my business with landlines, no cell phones,
Yes.
no social media. So I just look at that and go, oh my gosh, you guys have no idea how blessed you are. But it's really taking that step back and digging back into the wellness part of their being, mindset, goals, paradigms, all of that. Because once they can unbury that and put it on paper or make a vision board, then they have their own self to look in the mirror and answer to. They're not answering to me. And so it takes the responsibility off my shoulders. I just keep pivoting back to, wow, this is what you wanted 5 weeks ago or 5 months ago. So let's like revisit that and see where you want to change that, because what you're doing today is not going to get you there. And I want to empower you to get there. So let's see what has to be tweaked or what have you. And it's usually just teeny moves to implement that make the big
Yeah.
change.
That's good news for all of us to hear. It's not big stuff. It's baby step. It's literally baby steps
Right.
every single day.
Yes. Yes. Consistent baby steps and not giving up on that big end goal, your dream that you have. And,
Hmm.
this with this new build as of 7 years ago, my legacy footprint is it's in a trust for my kids and my grandkids, my business.
Hmm.
I mean, I think that's what most parents want is to be able to leave their kids not with a mess, not with a financial mess, but with, something that is willable,
Hmm.
inheritable,
Yeah.
that they can continue the legacy if they so choose.
Mm. So as I'm listening to you share, and you've built more than one time.
Mhm,
There's sort of like these two sides to the business. And one is being the attraction factor that
mhm,
actually attracts people in to come in and
mhm,
say yes and do business with us.
mhm,
And then there's this other part of the business, which is actually running the business, whether you're obviously you're teaching other people how to run a business as well. It's like
mhm.
the systems, the operations,
Oh,
daily activities that are going to yield the
yeah.
results that we say we want. So I have, I guess it's kind of two questions, but maybe you can fold it all into one. I know that you have something called the pivot system. So I'd love
Mhm,
for you to talk about that. And within that, I'd also love to hear from you. Like, what do you believe makes someone, you could talk about yourself or just in general, you've got to have something about you that is attracting people in the first place. Kind of like the marketing, the message, all of that. So, what do you think that is? Like the people who you've seen be very, very successful,
mhm.
what differentiates them? How are they able to really attract in a lot of folks so they're building a really awesome business that's built to last? And
Yeah.
then obviously, we all know to run a business, it's very much based on a system that we are waking up
Mhm.
every day and we're just following the system. I'd love for you to
Yes.
unpack that for us.
Yeah, following the system, you have got to have a mechanism in place for which can be duplicated in my business. It has to be duplicatable. And if it's not, if it's hard, if it's wishy-washy, it's not going to work. It breaks down and you don't grow as fast. I liken it to McDonald's. If you're a franchise owner and you buy McDonald's in Nashville, Tennessee, you buy 5 chains and you say, you know what? I don't like those yellow arches. I think I want mine to be hot pink. That's breaking the system. That mechanism is in place as a brand feature to McDonald's. So you don't have a choice. When you buy a franchise, you buy a system. And that's really what my business is. But then we can bring our own gifts and talents and expertise and areas of, that we can shine in to the table. So the law of attraction, honestly, is the know like trust factor. You know that from being in business. And it takes time to develop trust. I think people either like you or don't like you within the first 5 seconds, of seeing you speak, or, what have you, tone of voice that might remind them of a nagging teacher and I can't handle it, whatever.
Yeah.
So we just have to remove ourselves from their thinking, whatever people think about you, and just be true to yourself. You know, I'm not going to change my hot pink brand because people don't like it. I don't care.
Yeah.
Half my closet is hot pink, and that's where I feel comfortable. Lime green and hot pink. That's me. You know, I'm not into muted shades. Sorry. So be true to yourself and be unapologetic about it. Um, but it does take time to develop that trust. And social media is a good platform to develop that trust, and just slowly bringing people into your rhythm, into your vision, into your, online groups or masterminds, what have you. So it's no different, I don't think, for any business, service or product based. I think that that piece has to lead, but we all have our, own systems that we build within that infrastructure. So,
Hmm. I actually think it's smart for any type of business, whether it's a franchise model or not. I
mhm.
don't know if you're familiar with the book E-Myth.
Oh
Um,
yeah, it's on my
yeah, when
shelf.
I was going to say, when you said that, I was like, I bet she's read E-Myth because she used the word franchise. But if we all think from the place of, I'm going to design my business like I'm building it to be a franchise, I
Right.
think that is one of the smartest ways to approach building a business.
Mhm.
And hear me when I say, people listening to this, I'm not saying go turn your business into a franchise model.
Right.
But if we are actually building it as though it is a franchise, just like
Mhm.
your example, it's such a good example with the McDonald's arches.
Yeah.
We know what works, right? Like
Okay.
if you just go study business since the
Mhm.
beginning of time when businesses existed,
Mhm.
and you go study like ancient models of business, it is very clear what works. And
Right.
I think we keep trying to change it. We keep trying to make the yellow arches pink, and it's not going to work. But if we
Yep.
just look at like, here's what works because the proof is there and it's been there for hundreds and thousands of years, don't
Yep.
try to change the system that actually works. And if you look at the franchise model, it's actually a very simple model. And if we could
Mhm.
approach designing our businesses and the systems in our business as if it is a franchise, what
Mhm.
I love about that, and I always tell people all the time, I'm not waking up every day trying to figure out what I'm supposed to do in my business today. The system
Right.
tells me what to do.
Exactly.
And that's
Exactly right.
liberating.
It's liberating, and that doesn't happen overnight. You came to that system by being involved in your own growth, by mentorship, by hiring coaches, by taking courses, which is how I came to my system. Although I had the knowledge base of what I wanted to dump into that system from 34 years of practicing. So there's something to be said for those coaches out there that actually live what they speak, you're not just a book study coach. You actually have lived and you still live what you are teaching.
It's
Big,
easier to
really
guide people
important.
that way too.
So much more
Pretty easy.
authentic, so much
Yeah.
easier because you don't have to think about what you're supposed to be saying because it's ingrained.
Yeah. Exactly. You're
Mhm.
speaking from experience, not from, intelligence, cerebral, just knowing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Memorization, which I was
Yeah.
great at in school. I was a straight A student because I worked my butt off for that. But ask me what the test was about 2 days later. I couldn't even
Yeah.
tell you. But
Right.
that's how I became a lifetime learner because I didn't want that to be my life, cram, 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 memorize, boom, to get the end result. So that switched my light switch, after
Mhm.
college to become a lifetime learner for the
Yeah.
past 40 some years.
Yeah. I would love, Jeanette, for you to talk about the power of leveraged versus linear income. And one of the directions I'd love for you to go in is around adding on an additional stream of income
Mhm.
to a stream of income that may already exist. So, predominantly, all of our listeners are business owners. They own some
Okay.
kind of business, probably a lot of coaches and online educators, but all different types of industries and fields.
Mhm.
And I have also, I've witnessed the power of leveraged and residual income. I've been part of that multiple times as well.
Mhm.
And I think sometimes people, and I certainly felt this way I felt this way in the past. I don't feel this way now, where if I add on, like if I become a brand ambassador with a
Mhm.
company and I'm diving into residual income, but I already have this other business over here, how
Mhm.
do I talk about both of those? Or am I chasing two rabbits? So that's two questions. I'd love for you to talk about the power of leverage versus linear
Mhm.
income and what that can do for you long term. And
Yeah.
then also, when is it the right time and when does it make sense to add it on as an
Right.
additional stream of income that I'm building?
Well, I'm very money savvy. My dad has really been a phenomenal mentor for me. Um, I I handle a lot of our family trust as well, investments and things like that. So I understand the power of compound interest. Now, there's compound interest on credit cards, which is the bad stuff, but there's compound interest, for instance, in the stock market, where you're, set amount of money that you put in grows because of interest or dividends. So linear versus leveraged income. Go to a book if you've not read it, Business for the 21st Century. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Um, Robert Kiyosaki wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad and Business for the 21st Century. He puts together a cash flow quadrant. And that's what I take my linear and leveraged income teaching from. So imagine, just four quadrants. And on the left side of that quadrant is linear income. So you have people that work for somebody else. You exchange time for money. You go to the job, you get your salary or your hourly rate. On the bottom of that quadrant are self-employed solopreneurs, where really you're still exchanging time for money, but you're actually probably putting 16 hours a day, not 8 hours a day. So you're never going to be able to retire if that's the income you derive, period. You'll have to work the rest of your life unless you've got, savings, you've got retirement, things already put away. Because if you're in your 30s and 40s right now, Social Security, I mean, our government has hijacked that decades ago. Even at 63, I'm not even sure it's going to be there. When I retire at 80, I'm not going to retire. People die when they retire if they don't have um, things that they're passionate about. Okay, so that's the left side of the quadrant. Linear income, that's where 95% of people reside. That's how 95% of our world makes money, is on that left side of the quadrant. And only 5% of that huge pool of people create wealth on the left side. The right side of the quadrant is where leveraged income can occur. The top of that quadrant are big businesses that hire a lot of people in their, mom and pop store or their franchise or their, business that's global. And they get paid a percentage off every store that is producing. They, make X amount of money based on the production of that store or that restaurant or what have you. So that's leverage. So there's only one of me. I only have 24 hours in the day, but I'm actually accepting money from tens of thousands of people who are producing for my end result. So leveraged income is where 5% of people reside, but that's where 95% of wealth is. So there's very few people on that leverage side. On the bottom of that quadrant are things like investments, real estate, you buy and sell, you rent. So that's where leverage occurs. And I always tell people, if you're not in a leveraged vehicle, if you stepped away for the next 20 years like I did, would you still get paid? 100%
I
would
would
say
say
no,
no.
unless
Yeah.
they were in a business vehicle like I've been in, where other people are getting their products because they love them, but they're somehow tied to my marketing brand or my affiliate. I may not know these people in Japan and Europe that are buying these products, but somewhere in my network, somebody knew somebody who knew somebody. That's leverage. That's the only way I believe you really will have true freedom in your life. And if time is a huge, prize for you, don't keep working for the next 40 years doing what you're already doing if you're not seeing different results. That's insanity. But do what a lot of people are doing today because they've had to, is get another side hustle going or get another affiliate program going. Because when the great, resignation happened during COVID, during the lockdowns, and 40, 50 million people left the workforce. They said, we're done. I'm sick and tired of not having my, work-life balance. I'm going to go home and I'm going to find it. People are craving that balance. And if you have an affiliate program, and you've got to look, don't just dive in blindly, because there's a lot of crappy programs out there that pay one time, on one purchase. But there are programs that pay continual 20 to 30%. That's what I have as an affiliate that pays 20 to 30% on products that are purchased through your personalized link. And there's a lot of people now seeing that this side hustle can actually replace your full-time income because of leverage. Leveraged income builds faster than linear every day of the week. If you have the right system, company, timing, products, things that I look for when I talk to people about what to search for their, side hustle.
Yeah. When I love this. This is so good for people to be thinking about. When do you think it's the right time or a good time for somebody to add this on to an already existing, like let's say they already have an existing business that they're running full time or part time? When does it make sense for them to add a stream of income like this on?
You know what I'm going to answer? You know what my answer is? There's never a good time. You have to make it a priority.
That's good.
There's never a good time. You're going to always have a reason why it's not a good time. It's holidays are coming up, or, it's too cold outside, or, I need to buy that hot pink sweater that I can't get until I go to Florida, whatever. People have excuses for everything. That's just how our brains are wired. It's no fault of our own, but you can stop that transmission in its tracks, recreate a new tunnel, a new program in your brain, and start living into it. That I don't have a lot of tolerance for excuses, as you can imagine, because people with excuses are just giving up on themselves. That's how I look at it. Excuses over time means there's something in your psyche that you are not giving yourself enough worth or enough credit. So let's dig deeper. Forget the money stuff. Let's just get into what is stopping you. What is having you say, I'm not worth it? And that all goes back to paradigms, how I first, start my pivot training program for the first 5 weeks. We get into that. And then the business, and then linear leveraged and linear income. So,
That's awesome. I love it. You heard it, people. Don't delay. Start now. I love that,
yes,
Jeanette.
yes, yes.
Awesome. This has been so fun. We could
Good.
keep going for hours. I always say that with
I,
guests. It's like, gosh, we have so much we could keep talking about. But if
yes.
people are super curious about what you've got going on and want to
Mhm,
connect further with you and just keep checking you out or listening to what
mhm.
you have to share, where are the best places for them to do that?
So my name.com. JeanetteLowry.com is my main website. I do have my academy now set up for online training and one-on-one and group, which is JeanetteLowryAcademy.com. And I think that I sent you uh, a gift for your listeners. Uh,
Yeah, share about
and
that. We'll make sure that's in the show notes.
okay, there's several free gifts that I have for people, but I think the one I sent, if it's not, I should send this one because we talked a lot about paradigms, is Girl, Quit Looking in the Rear View Mirror. And it's all about resetting goals, mindset, paradigms. So it's a workbook. It's fantastic.
Amazing. Well, that is in the show notes. So
Okay.
if you just heard that, go check the show notes, click that link, and it'll take you right there to download that. I love that. What a great name, too.
That just happened on the treadmill,
Oh,
working out.
that's when the best ideas come,
I love
right?
it. Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
it's
yes.
so good.
Yeah.
Amazing, Jeanette. Well, I'm just so excited to have you as a new friend in my
Me
world.
too. I look
I'm
forward to following you on your podcast. The last one I listened to was fantastic. So
amazing. Well, now
be
you're
good.
going to have a fantastic episode on the show
There you
too.
go.
So thank you so much, Jeanette. And
Yes.
until next time, remember to design a business and life that's built to last.